Good morning, students. Welcome to the lecture series of Software Engineering Techniques. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss how to develop the DFD model of a system and decomposition in terms of a structured analysis. Let's first understand the data flow diagram. The data flow diagram, or you can say that the DFD model of a problem consists of many DFDs and a single data dictionary. When we draw a DFD of a problem, then it consists of many DFDs and there will be a single data dictionary. In my coming lectures, I will discuss about the data dictionary, what is data dictionary and how we describe a data dictionary in the data flow diagram. So, it's very clear that when we draw a data flow diagram, there will be many DFDs. Let's now understand the hierarchy of a DFD. The top level DFD is called the level 0 DFD or the context diagram. जो सबसे abstract level पे DFD draw करते हैं, that we call it a context diagram or a level 0 DFD. And now at each successive lower layer of the DFD, more and more details are gradually introduced. It means that the processes are decomposed into their sub-processes and the data flow among these processes are identified. Now, once we draw the context diagram, after that we start decomposing the problem into the sub-problem, or you can say that the decomposing the process into sub-processes, and the data flow diagram will also represent the data flow among these processes. Now let's come to the context diagram. The context diagram is the most abstract data flow representation of a system. If I will tell you what do you mean by context diagram, so the context diagram represents the overall software. There will be, in order to represent the context diagram, we make use of a single bubble only. जब भी हम context diagram बनाएंगे तब बस हमें ये याद रखना है कि we have to draw only a single circle or you can say that a single bubble. उसमें हम उसका नाम लिखेंगे कि सॉफ्टवेयर का नाम क्या है, and also there will be external entity. कितने number of external entity उस सॉफ्टवेयर से interact कर रहे हैं, that should be represented in the context diagram. And there will be a data flow arrow which represents the data input to the bubble and the data and the output produced by the bubble. So while representing a context diagram, we make use of only three symbols, that is your process symbol, data flow symbol and the external entity symbol. This we have to keep in mind while drawing the context diagram. Now let's come to the label 1 DFD. Now when we draw the label 1 DFD, अब label 1 DFD क्या होगा, जो हमने context diagram बनाया है और उसमें जो हमारा एक circle है that represents the process, उस process को हम लोग decompose करेंगे कि now at next level what that process is going to perform. So while drawing the label 1 DFD, there will be only 3 to 7 bubbles per diagram, and each bubble in a DFD should be decomposed to between 3 and 7 bubbles in the next DFD. So what we have seen that at each level there will be, apart from the context diagram, there will be only 3 to 7 DFD. अगर आप 3 से कम बबल रखते हैं तो इट विल लुक वेरी क्लमसी, और अगर 7 से ज़्यादा आप उसमें बबल रखते हैं तो इट विल बी नॉट वेरी क्लियर. So we always have to keep the bubble in between 3 to 7. Now let's come to understand what do you mean by the term decomposition. The decomposition of a bubble is also called the fracturing or the exploding, and each bubble is decomposed into 3 to 7 bubble. Here each bubble in the DFD represents a function which is performed by the system. The bubbles are decomposed into sub-functions at the successive level of the DFD model. The decomposition of a bubble, sometimes it is also called a factory, or in other words it is called exploding. Each bubble at any level of the DFD is usually decomposed to anything which is in between 3 to 7 bubble. जब भी हम किसी process को या bubble को decompose करेंगे, then it should be decomposed in between 3 to 7 bubbles. A few bubbles at any level makes the level superfluous. It means it will look clumsy. अगर आप 2-3 से कम बबल बनाते हो तो the diagram will look clumsy. So while making the data flow diagram, the numbering of the bubble is very important. When we draw the context diagram, the bubble will be annotated as 0. उसका नंबरिंग 0 रहेगा. जब हम लेवल 1 DFD में जाएंगे तो as we are decomposing the लेवल 0 DFD, तो अब हम उसको how we will do the numbering, we will do the numbering like 0.1, 0.2, 0.2, 0.3 जितने number of bubbles रहेंगे, but we'll start with 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. अब उसके बाद में मान लो कि तुम 0.2 बबल को डिकम्पोज कर रहे हो, so how we will do the numbering, it will be numbered as 0.2.1, 0.2.2, 0.2.3. तो जिस प्रोसेस को हम लोग डिकम्पोज करते हैं उसी के अकॉर्डिंग ही हम नंबरिंग करते हैं. जैसे कि कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम कॉन्टेक्स्ट डायग्राम में बबल 0 को डिकम्पोज करें, सो एट लेवल 1 वी विल do the numbering like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. और अब लेवल 2 में आप आकर के मान लो कि 0.3 को आप डिकम्पोज कर रहे हो, so how will you do the numbering? 0.3.1, 0.3.2, 0.3.4. in this way you will do the numbering. Now in decomposition, I told you that the few bubbles will make it superfluous, and if a bubble is decomposed to just 1 or 2 bubbles, then the decomposition becomes very redundant. We will never have more than 7 bubbles in a DFD, otherwise it will be very hard to understand. And the main question is up to at what level the decomposition will go on. हम लोग decomposition कब तक करेंगे? So we have to carry the decomposition until a level at which the function of the bubble can be described using a simple algorithm. Now it's depending upon the problem to problem कि किसी में level 2 DFD में ही सब चीज़ clear हो जाती है, किसी में हम लोग को level n तक जाना decompose करना पड़ता है. So the thing is that we have to decompose the functions up to the label so that each function can be described in a simple algorithm. So while drawing the DFD, we have to decompose the problem into sub problem, or you can say that we decompose the process into sub process. The sub process are decomposed into sub process, and